What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It's another great episode of Liam Picks Fights. And today we're going over Dana White Contender Series, week number 6. And guys, this is an exciting week of fights. I'm very stoked to be breaking it down once again with my man NarcoCop. Unfortunately, our boy Gordo is down for the count right now. A little bit of travel delays. Was supposed to get in town around 11:30. Now it's looking closer to 12 midnight. So hopefully we'll get him coming through with some Soldier of Fortune cell phone picks for us. But in the meantime, we got the dream team, myself and Mike, NarcoCop. Welcome aboard, brother. How are you tonight?
What's up, brother? I'm good, man. Looking forward to this card as well. We're gonna have to pick up the slack here because Gordo is part of the spectacular threesome. So we have to pick up some slack here.
Yes, sir. And we got 5 great fights to break down. We got the sharpest chat in the game rocking with us once again. 40 people already here. I'm sure more are going to continue to pile in as we go. So without further ado, we could start with the first fight of the night, Alex Morgan and Blake Bilder. And a couple of the things that stand out off the rip. I mean, Alex Morgan just got a bevy more experience, right? Almost, a little bit over double the amount of professional fights. But Bilder, he's been fighting at a pretty high level. One thing that stood out to me is he's on bottom in every fight. He's getting rocked and dropped in almost every fight on the Bilder side. But then you just look at the record and you're like, wait, he's not really losing the fights. So he finds a way to win the fights. And he's a dangerous guy. I like to see guys who can submit people and put them to sleep. That for me is a sign of strength, right? It's a validation of technique. A lot of guys quit on the regional scene, right? We can be fair and say that not everybody's a guy who's trying to make a living of this, right? So some people, they get in a tough situation, they get in a bad spot. They're like, I got to go back to, chopping wood at the plant or whatever that, tomorrow. So I can't afford to get my arm broken. And some people are about this life and they're like going until you break them, kill them, something like this. And, this guy's choking people clear unconscious that were winning the fight. So it's like they had every incentive to stay in the fight. And this guy's very dangerous. You put him on his back. That's not to say you're going to win the fight. He's still dangerous from that position. I think eventually that's going to reach a ceiling where it doesn't work anymore. But, I'm not sure that I'm sold on Alex Morgan's ground game, to tell you the truth. I think that there was obviously he got rocked by Charles Jourdain, but there was a fundamental lack of positional awareness there. When your head starts to go down like that, it's got to be 2 hands to your neck. You got to be protecting your neck. You got to be getting hands on a wrist and maybe, attribute that to being rocked. But he's been submitted before. So just seems like, if you wrap your arms around this guy, you can potentially find that submission. On the feet, Alex Morgan is a superior fighter for sure. I think that Blake Bilder, he's a liability standing. It's plain and simple. He has some power. He's willing to come forward. He's obviously tough as shit because he's been dropped multiple times in multiple rounds and multiple fights in a 6-fight, pro career. So all that's to say, I think Alex Morgan deserves to be the favorite here, but I'm not going to be laying it either. If anything, I'd look for a prop in this fight. I think DraftKings has been opening up fight to end by method bets. And if they open that for sub, I think I would take that because I think somebody could submit Blake Bilder too. Like this guy is on bottom in every fight. He gives up a takedown in every fight. He gives up his back oftentimes. And I think sometimes somebody's going to make him pay for that. Maybe Alex Morgan's that guy. He does seem aggressive in all positions. But I think also Alex Morgan could get submitted here. If he gets hurt, he has been hurt in exchanges by guys who aren't necessarily as good a striker, but I think he's the better striker here. I think he's probably going to win if this stays standing. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I couldn't overlook some of the stuff I saw from Blake Bilder. You mentioned some things. You know what's surprising? Alex Morgan has an extensive amateur career as well. He's got 13 fights or 14 fights in the amateurs. He does have, 15 fights as a pro, and he's the younger fighter here, believe it or not. He's 1 year younger. He's faced a way better level of opposition. When you look at, guys like TJ Laramie, twice, Charles Jourdain, Jalo Luis Nogueira, even Jacob Bond, who was on PFL, Peter Petey's. Like, these guys are much better opposition for the most part than what Bilder has faced. And when you look at Bilder's resume, he's beat Caravallo, who's a regional guy, and Buenafuente. But, I mean, watch both of these fights. Like, I can't get over the fact that Caravallo—
It wasn't easy.
Knocked him down 3 times in the first round, Liam. 3 knockdowns in the first round from a guy that's, I wouldn't consider like a heavy hitter, right? Then when you go watch the Buenafuente fight, Buenafuente takes him down, is on top for the whole first round, right? Wins the first round. Come second round, they're exchanging. Buenafuente drops him. Buenafuente is a grappler, for Christ's sake, and he drops him. There's a lot of red flags with this guy's chin, man. I can't keep seeing, this guy keep getting dropped by these guys. And then even the fight where he beat Kane Luger by submission, like Luger lands a leg kick and he got hurt, and then Bilder goes in for the takedown. The thing that I dislike with Bilder, with his takedowns, is the fact that they come after he gets hurt or he's getting rocked, or he's not like shooting for takedowns when he actually should be shooting for takedowns, because standing, he's getting hit way too often. His chin is not holding up. So I don't like these things that I see from Bilder. However, you mentioned, is he tough? Yeah, he's tough. He's staying into the fight. He's coming back and beating these guys. But how long does that last? How long can you keep getting up from knockdowns? And, like I mentioned, Carvalho is really not a big finisher himself. Buenafuente is not a finisher himself when it comes to standing. And these guys are getting him hurt, but they're not finishing. Morgan, I think, is a far better striker than both these guys. He's a far better striker than Blake Bilder. He's more technical. He has a very solid 1-2. He manages distance very well when it comes to his striking. And I do think he has power. Like when you watch the last fight against Hamo, like that body shot was nasty, man. I mean, he crumbled that dude. And to be honest, he was killing him the most of the fight. Against Laramie, both times, one punch knockouts, both freaking times. Against a guy, Laramie, yeah, he's not the best guy, but I consider him at or probably better than Blake Bilder is. So I honestly like the Morgan side here. I was hoping we get a nice KO prop, but they're on it, man. They're plus 135 they're giving me. I can't just play plus 135. I did play Alex Morgan at minus 205. I laid it for 2.05 units. I just think he's the better fighter. He's a little bit bigger. He's younger, more experienced. Everything just points to his side. He's got the cardio. What's the edge here, outside of trying to get these takedowns? But I don't think it's going to be that easy to get him down, because he does show pretty good takedown defense. And he's working with better training partners, too. That's another thing here. He's got good training partners. He said he even he's trained with GSP a lot, he said in an interview. So I like hearing that. Yeah,
I thought I saw Faraz in his corner in his fights. Yep.
He's going to be in his corner, I believe, again, he mentioned. And, I just think he's the better fighter. He's the more proven fighter. And that chin, man, like I think Bilder's going to get knocked out, to be honest, but I just don't want to lay just plus 135 with a KO prop. So I just took the straight money line here.
Yeah, and if anybody was tempted to try and bet on that knockout, just bet on the inside the distance. I mean, it's 35 cents. Just don't be silly. Don't play games. For 35 cents, I think that would be a fool's errand. But I do think that he's the side. I think he's probably going to win the fight. The only other thing I will point to as like my cause for concern, I said I wouldn't lay the chalk at minus 210 where it is now. Shout out to my man MMA Triple J hits the opener at minus 145. That's a great number. And obviously the market has come around to agree with that. I just think the other thing I noticed was that the Peter, whatever it was, Petchy. Yeah. I thought that fight, could have went the other way. It was a split decision, and I just felt like he was very low volume there. I felt like he kind of just became a little bit reserved in that fight, didn't throw as much volume. And Bilder is pretty reliable to come forward swinging bungalows. That's the other thing. So I think that if it becomes like a greasy split decision territory, he might open himself up on volume and takedown attempts.
The difference is, and I did watch that whole fight, is that Petey's is skirting around the ring, karate style, not throwing anything himself, kicking, just throwing a couple of kicks. Like, that's not what Bilder's going to do. Bilder's going to be there.
I think body kicks is not in the Bilder resume.
Yeah, so that's the, I agree with you. Petey's could have easily won that fight, but I don't take much from that fight based on styles, and I think Petey's and Bilder are completely different. And I just think Bilder's going to be there to be hit, man. And this guy's chin is very scary.
I agree. So we're siding with the Canadian here, but for reasons of historical precedent, I will not be laying chalk with the Canadian this weekend. Good luck to the Canuck, Alex Morgan. Now, that being said, guys, we've got the next fight up, a fight I have very little interest in betting. Maybe my man Narco could talk me into it because we've got significant chalk here on the Maria Silva side. And when I started looking into the fight, that seemed appropriate, right? We've got on the one hand a girl who's been doing mixed martial arts since 2019. Does not look like she has the same level of physicality. Maria Silva looks like she has some power on the feet, looks like she can operate on the ground, looks like she could potentially pass the guard if she gets to the top position. And, strength and physicality and power are really important attributes to have in WMMA because not everybody has them. Can really set yourself apart. If you're a 155 pounder and you got some power in your hands, it's like, get in line. There's a lot of guys that will fit that bill, but I do think that the physicality of Maria Silva is not, what we're seeing on the other side, not what we're seeing from the opposition for Viktoriya Dudakova. So I think that Maria Silva is going to get the job done. Narco, how do you feel?
Yeah, man, I had to lay it here. I couldn't look past the fact that Dudakova on tape, to me, she's fighting like absolute cans. Like, don't look at these records. Like, the chick that she beat last, the Shatova girl, like she's constantly getting taken down, bro. She's always on bottom. Yeah, she's sweeping some of these girls because they're so bad. But some of these girls are just like easily in the clinch. When we're talking 50-50 positions, like she's getting thrown down on the ground, on bottom. Even in the Dicteria, that very first fight of hers where she won an armbar round 3, she's like losing that fight prior to getting the armbar. She just feels she looks weak to me when it comes to like strength wise. Like she doesn't look like she's very physical. Silva looks like she's very, very physical. She looks strong. She's shown good cardio, which was my question mark when she fought last time on Contender Series. Because when you look at her, she was gone for a while. She came back after 2 years. And, I kind of was questioning the fact that she had a lot of first-round finishes. And I'm like, is this girl going to hold up cardio-wise against Pepraki? And she showed good cardio. She almost finished that fight a couple of times. She looks strong, man. And Silva's the better striker here by far. Dudakova's striking, boxing in particular looks awful to me. She's running forward, she's throwing punches with her head straight up in the air, looking to get knocked out, just nothing about Dudakova really looks good to me. Yeah, she's decent on the ground when it comes to grappling. She's got like a decent amateur resume where she's, in the IMMAF European championships and stuff like that. But the girl just doesn't do it for me. Silva actually does it for me. I think she is UFC level. Like, not to say that she's going to get a lot of wins at 115, but, she's strong. She has good striking. She has power. Her cardio is decent. She's good on the ground as well. And so with that, all that being said, like, I laid it with Maria Silva here at minus 205. And I got, honestly, 4 units on her. I'm really confident in her side. I think she's better everywhere by miles. So, give me Silva, and Dudakova is a complete fade to me.
I love that from MMA Triple J, the Russian tax. If she was Amber Smith from Missouri, she would be plus 500. I see where you're coming from, brother. And Mushroom, shout out Mushroom in the chat, says Dudakova is sloppy and gets reversed on the ground. Fair play. So shout out to all you guys in the chat, lighting it up with great information as always. Next up, guys, this is probably one of the more fun fights on the bill. 155 pounds, globally competitive weight class, Rodrigo Lidio. A lot of fun knockouts on this guy's resume, right? But a lot of sifting through him getting out-grappled to find it. It's an interesting style matchup, right? Because I do think that Mateusz Ribeki, he's a very dangerous fighter, straight up. Like, I wanted to back the Ligio side, right? I'm watching this guy Ligio. I'm like, man, this is the kind of guy people will sleep on. He's long, he's a little bit awkward. He gets taken down at times, but when he finds his moments, he's very punishing. He has a good mix-up between that jab, the left hook, he plays off it pretty well. And he's got those flying knees as well that he mixes in. He has good knees in the clinch. A couple guys got a little too over aggressive, wanted to spam that level change one too many times, and they were made to pay as a result. But Rebecci, on the other hand, he seems to have a really clear process, right? I talk about process sometimes in my analysis, and he likes to come forward swinging absolute bungalows at your head, and he throws a lot of power. He's knocked a lot of guys down as he's coming forward, but he's really not the most committed striker. He wants to back you up, and when he gets you in line with the cage, he's going to run headfirst into you, grab a hold of you, and the guy's strong as shit. The thing that really stood out to me, he actually reminds me of one of my teammates, my coach's son, as a matter of fact, in his style of grappling, because, very low to the ground in the sense that level change to a really low double, gets a hold of you, lifts very easily, right? Makes it seem like nothing, and then slams sideways, always passing the guard, right? Always hip turning, so you can't follow when you have that guillotine locked up, right? I'm a guillotine guy, so I'm looking for somebody who shoots a double leg on me, no problem. I'm going to try and shove your head to the outside. I'm going to get a really tight grip on your neck. But it's these guys that make a problem for you, right? When you try and guard pull with it, when you want to sit back to that guillotine, and they're so good at flipping their hips that they just run into the next position, right? And they find themselves in side control as a defense all the time. And I think that that's the problem with Rebecci. He's just a very talented grappler. He does a lot of things right. He does a lot of things aggressively, and he puts himself in good positions. I see one fight, makes a mistake, falls over the top. A lot of guys, they fall over the top, it's panic mode, right? Oh no, I'm a big power guy. How am I underneath? I saw him have multiple series, not just like one thing to do when you're on your back, like series of attacks. Like he goes to back take you from the ground. He goes to get into a wrestling scramble and then take your back. He grapples like a wrestler, which I really like. He's constantly passing the wrist. He's constantly looking for tricep ties to pull you across. He's looking to reach to the opposite side of the body and take the back for a choke that's already preset before you get there. So he's really clever in what he's doing on the ground. And I do think that Lidio puts himself on the ground too much for a guy like that. So I think that's going to be the ultimate problem. I think he's probably going to end up getting finished on the ground here. I think Rebecci is too serious, but I would be looking at Rebecci props personally, just because it is a pretty big ask on the money line. And it's not like Rebecci, you watch him and he doesn't get hit in his fights. He just seems like he's a tank. He seems like he could really take a good shot. He's been hit with uppercuts from the bottom floor of Hades and just no-sold him, kept coming forward. So I don't know how he does that. I think eventually that bill will come due as well. But he's a real problem, man. And I think if he gets on top, he's going to create big damage. Ligio's bleeding in a lot of his fights. They talked about he's like the Brazilian Nate Diaz on one of the commentary, and that's kind of what he reminds me of. He almost reminds me of like a Bill Algeo, right? Bill Algeo with big power is how I describe this guy. He's not easy to submit. He puts himself in some dangerous spots though. And he also is a guy that is going to give up takedowns. But if you leave him at space, if you give him too much time to work, he can operate on the feet. He feels a lot more comfortable there. So I feel like this is a Rebecci fight, but man, it's going to be a hell of a war. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with what you said. But what's funny about Rebecci? Have you ever seen someone start off his career with one amateur heel hook and then 3 consecutive heel hooks to start his? 4 consecutive heel hooks to win.
That's how someone can grapple too. That means modern grappling.
That's pretty fucking crazy. When I first looked at this guy, I'm like, heel hook, heel hook, heel hook, heel hook. Like, I'm like, is this guy just hunting for these heel hooks? But yeah. Dude, this guy is, let's talk about his striking versus boxing. It's not clean. It's not good. He's looking down when he's throwing these big overhand rights and lefts. And like you said, he's looking to close distance for the most part. Yeah, he's trying to take your head off too with them. But for the most part, he's trying to push you back. He's trying to get you against that fence so he can like charge like a bull and then try to get you down. And the guy looks very, very strong. On top, extremely nasty, dude. He wants to advance position. He wants to advance to half guard, go to full mount. He loves the crucifix position. He's finished a couple of guys from the crucifix. He wants to tie your arm down and actually absolutely punish you with those elbows. And the guy is pretty nasty. I mean, he's a nasty guy. He wants to finish. I like what I see from him outside of, him getting caught on the feet, because I do think he can get caught on the feet. He tends to be sloppy. Looking down when you're throwing punches is kind of like a recipe for disaster. And on the Lidio side, man, I mean, god awful takedown defense, man. Like I think you can take him down. I think I can take him down. I think anybody, Augusta Wynn can take this guy down, because his takedown defense fucking awful. Gets taken down in every single fight. He's the type of guy that he's losing until he's winning, if you know what I'm saying. Like, he's landing the one big shot, he's putting people out. Does he have power? I think he has one punch power. I think he has that long freak, like nasty power where he just generates it from how long he is. And when he's hitting you, he's putting people out like cold. He's flying with knees, kicks, but he's very low volume. He doesn't really do much on the feet. He's waiting, he's trying to time you. What I will say is something to look for is it's kind of important here is how Rebecci comes in, dropping his head, throwing punches. Lidio loves the uppercut, and he has multiple uppercut win knockouts. And it's going to be there for him in this fight if he can time it correctly, and he has a lot of power. So that's the only way I see Lidio winning, a KO. He's not winning a decision. I don't think he's submitting Rebecci. So outside of a KO, Lidio's not winning. I'll tell you that now. So I do like the Rebecci side. However, I don't really want to lay this 240, 250 price tag. I was hoping it would come down some so I can play him, but it's a complete pass for me here, because maybe I might look at submission, but man, of late, this Rebecci guy just wants to put your face right through that mat, dude. He doesn't want to go for subs of late. And the way Lidio is, like, he's content to stay on his back, close his guard, not do shit from bottom. And with that being said, Rebecci should win here. Outside of getting caught, he definitely should win. This is a fight for him to lose.
Makes sense to me. I think that, Ligio, you look at the KO price, it's plus 300. His money line's like plus 200, right? They're basically just telling you he's got to win by knockout. So very closely correlated there. I do think Lidio's got a lot of power. I respect that about him. And he's got a fun style as well. I'd love to see him brought back and fight somebody that's not such a monster, but just seems like there's a lot to ask. And I think Rebecci projects to win some UFC fights as well. His grappling is pretty impressive. So excited to see what he could produce, the next iteration of Polish power at 155 pounds in the UFC. Now, up next, guys, we got a 185-pound bout between CJ, I believe, Sedriques Dumas, and he's taking on Matej Penaz. Matej Penaz, I watched this guy take a absolute, I'm talking about from the hip, loaded up, just as hard as he could, right hook to the face. And I just said to my girlfriend, I was like, is that a guardian angel that caught him? I don't understand how he stayed upright from that shot. He's got a chin from Hades. He is absolutely committed to what he's doing, right? Most people take that shot, and even if they don't go down, they go, doctor, get me out of here. Somebody stop and intervene. He was able to push forward despite the fact that he got hit with some absolute bombs and find that cardio in the third round as well. So for me, I liked what I saw from this guy. I think he's got pretty good cardio overall. I actually don't even hate what I saw from the Dumas side. I just think he might be overmatched here, kind of like the last fight where Dumas did some interesting things to me. He's mostly a guy who's going to go out there and try and kick. I think his defense is horrific, but otherwise I think he's a pretty good fighter. His offense, like a lot of MMA fighters, is 10 steps ahead of where his defense is at right now. And so you see in some of his fights that he wins by thunderous knockout in the first round. He gets hit cleanly with the first three, 1-2s that the guy throws at him, but he clearly has power. He's got a lot of kicks in his arsenal. I just don't think he's as developed in terms of his striking I think that in the boxing range, he could definitely get picked off by the basic strikes, the basic 1-2s, the longer punching. And I think we see more feints, more head movement, just a little bit more, layers to what we're seeing in the striking. A lot of what he does is, spamming really hard kicks, and that's effective at a certain level. I just think, it might run into levels where it doesn't work. And that's why we saw him start mixing in the takedowns and trying to get on top. I'm not sure that we're going to see that from him necessarily in this spot. It's the Dana White Contender Series. He might come out here and want to get into that mano-a-mano battle. I was talking to one of the other cappers out there that I really respect, my man JWB. Go check out what he just put up as well. We got a free play for UFC Paris already rocking for the people. But, one of the things we talked about is just the fact that everybody's trying to take this guy down. It's not like people aren't trying to take down Penaz. It's just he's pretty long. He's pretty lanky. He's pretty awkward. He's got a good way of getting his back to the fence, getting back up, and then circling off and punishing people. And I think that that's something that we got to be cognizant of. That's something that, I don't want to sleep on this guy's skills. And I just think he's a little bit further along, right? He's fighting in these big, brave events. He's had a lot of experience under his belt in front of big crowds, big shows. A lot of fights were for this WKA karate or something like this. I forget what it was called. It looked like a real local American show. And just looked like he was fighting a bunch of taxi drivers, all in fairness and respect. I think that some of the guys he's fought more recently are a little bit better, but a lot of the guys he was fighting, they're not fighting for a living, and they're probably not fighting anymore, honestly. And the fights were pretty recently. So I think that I prefer the Penaz side here. I think he's probably going to get it done. But I understand why this is a little bit more closely lined. He has been hit pretty cleanly in most of his fights. It just seems like he's got a better chin. And it seems like, I think he'll be ready to go for longer. I think that it was to his benefit that he was in control for the whole 15 minutes in the fight that went to the decision for Dumas. I'm curious if he can keep up that 15 minutes of cardio in this spot when he's facing pressure on the other side, when he's not able to control the fight for the duration. How about you, Narco? What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I mean, I was, talking to a couple of people, and they were pretty heavy on the Dumas side early. I hadn't taped it yet. And when I taped it, man, like when you talk about that punch that he took, and I know exactly, if you're taping this guy, you know exactly what punch it is. It's from Czech Cone when he lands that bomb on him and his face absolutely whips to the other side. I'm like, and he doesn't even wobble. He doesn't get like hurt from it. He comes forward after he gets it. I'm like, how did this guy take this fucking punch? And you're absolutely right. Like, I couldn't believe he took that punch. Guy looks durable as shit. The other thing I got a question for you is, did you watch Face-Offs? Because
I did watch Face-Offs. Yes, for this fight, I did watch the Face-Off.
So Tapology shows Dumas at 6'3". Penaz, it shows him as a 6'3" guy on Glory because he's a Glory kickboxer. He's 3-1 in Glory with 3 KOs. He's 23-3 as a kickboxer with 12 KOs. So to see 12 KOs off of 23 wins, go ahead, Liam. What were you saying?
I was doing the small clap for your intimate knowledge of the Glory record. I love it.
Yeah, so to see 12 KOs off of 23 wins in kickboxing is pretty impressive. It means you have some power, right? Dumas is sloppy on the feet, dude. Very, very sloppy. He's used to being the bigger guy in the cage. Dude, when you look at face-offs, Penaz is like 3 inches taller than this dude. It's either Penaz is 6'6" or Dumas is not 6'3". I don't know which one it is, but
I think it's the latter.
Yeah. He definitely looks much longer, much bigger. I mean, dude, the guy had an 8-pack today. The guy was in, tip-top shape. Really impressed from his weigh-ins. This guy's dedicated. Dumas, if you're to give me a guy that has good wrestling, good grappling, and shoots a lot of takedowns, you know what? I'd be all for it against Penaz. But Dumas is not really that guy. Yeah, he gets takedowns, but they're like sloppy. They're not really – this guy's not really a wrestler. He's a Muay Thai guy. He wants to stay on the feet. And when you want to stay on the feet, you're playing into Penaz's hands. He's the cleaner striker. He's the longer guy. He's got better power, I believe, on the feet. Everything kind of favors Penaz outside of the grappling aspect. I don't think he has great grappling. He can get taken down. He might even be able to get his back in this fight, because you do see Dumas get a lot of these guys back. So there is some question marks on the Penaz side, but there are things that I love, like from both guys. I think both guys are actually tough. Haiba had Dumas pretty hurt. He survived. And, looking at this fight, I like the over. Over 1.5 was at 144. What is it right now? Let me see here. It's 160. I still think that's a good line. I don't think, these guys are both kickboxers. They're kind of long. I think both guys are durable, which is important here. Getting over 1.5 minus 160, I don't think is bad at all. I got the 144 minus 144. I even took a sprinkle of fight goes to decision, because I do think it's very possible this fight might hit the scorecards. And I got it at plus 230. So I kind of see this fight going the distance. If there's some props I like here, like on as far as these fighters, it would be those decision props, honestly. Plus 300 on Penaz is because you can get 200 on the fight goes. But the plus 550 on the Dumas side looks kind of interesting, because if anybody has grappling upside, it's him.
Yeah, and the problem that I did have with Dumas was that I was hoping for a little bit cleaner grappling. He kind of like fell off a couple positions, and against Haiba, he was able to bail himself out by muscling him over. I mean, there was no technique at all. He just grabbed under his forearm and was like, "Get over here." But I think that's not necessarily replicable. So I think if he ends up on bottom here, he might be in a little bit of a tougher way. But overall, I think we basically agree on this fight. Lean towards the Penaz side, and I think that maybe he has a little bit more of a chance to get the finish, a little bit more of a chance to find that knockout blow. But also, not going to count out Dumas. I do think he's a talented enough guy, but asking a lot here, especially given the size disparity you noted from the face-off. It's one thing on paper. It's another thing to see him in the octagon. And I do think that Penaz is going to be the larger individual and hit with a little bit more power. So unless he gets hit with an errant kick, I think Penaz is going to be the one to find victory. And last up, guys, we've got the main event. So 107 people rocking with us live. Appreciate you guys. Make sure, if you're not already, subscribe to my channel. Always dropping knowledge for you guys about upcoming fights and including the Contender series this week. So make sure you're following my man Narco, our man Gordo. He's down for the count today, but if he's able to roll through before the end of the video, we'll make sure we get him on here. If not, guys, he drops a ton of knowledge for you guys every week on Twitter at Gambles Gordo. So make sure you find him there as well. But appreciate everybody rocking with us. And we got a main event to break down. So let's do it. Jose, and Henrique, I think is how they pronounced it on the Brazilian regional scene. And man, very young guy. So I got to say, with the utmost respect, and humility, well done, young man. 20 years old on the Contender series. And this is a guy who's obviously tough as shit, right? He actually reminds me in terms of, visually just of my friend Joe growing up. He's 6'5", but he's really not the thickest guy in the world. He's kind of got that muscular, that little bit of athletic frame. He's super long, super tall for this weight class, right? I was stunned that he made this weight. He looked way bigger than his last opponent at 185. Am I wrong, Narco? It's like, then I'm looking and seeing, he's making this 170 class. That's pretty impressive stuff. But he's got a violent ass motherfucker on the other side. And this guy, Yusaku Kinoshita, he's not here to play games either, right? Kinoshita, one of the more violent guys I've ever taped, right? I watch a lot of fighters. I watch a lot of guys who are about this violent stuff. And this guy, he's right up among them, that stomp knockout is not for the faint of heart, right? Like this guy's serious. He's not here to make friends. He's not concerned about your health and safety. He'll stomp your head after you're sleeping. So guy is super scary. And on top of that, he's kind of got a couple different ways he can win a fight. I've seen him go out there, pursue takedowns, get on top of somebody, smash them, pass their guard easily, create frenetic situations. One of the things I like to see is if somebody could do the same thing multiple ways, and he can pass the guard by getting on top, getting into the half guard, moving one position at a time to the side control and then to the mount. I also saw he was in these more frenetic scrambles. Somebody's trying to upkick him. He's passing the ankle, knee on belly, right to the mount. So a few different ways that he could be aggressive, that he could pass the guard, that he could be dangerous when somebody's grounded. But also there were fights when the guy's trying to throw up a triangle and do this and that. So he's like, all right, fine, let's stand back up. And in those fights, he's pretty patient. He'll find that outside low kick. He's going to circle away from the power, and then he's going to throw big shots. He throws powerful punches, seems to have decent connections. He throws jumping knees as well, kind of guy that the UFC likes to get behind. But on the other side here, you got Jose Henrique. I don't know that he won his last fight, but I do know that he's tough as shit for staying in there. He was really badly compromised early on in the second round and took flush head kick, elbow to the face, 9 punches straight to the jaw. So he's obviously super tough, but now he's cutting 15 extra pounds, right? He's a little bit older here, so he's a little bit wiser. He's got a little more experience, but he's 20, right? He's the guy's still extremely young. He's pretty raw, pretty inexperienced. And we just saw him get badly rocked up a weight class. Now he's cutting a lot of water weight out of himself before a big opportunity, a high pressure situation. And he seems like he wants it. He's saying, I'm coming to get my title shot, Dana. I'm coming to get my Contender Series stuff. But I think on the other side here, you got a guy who's pretty, ready to go. He's fighting in Ryzen. He's fighting in Shuto. He's fighting in Pancrase. He's fighting in all the best organizations around. He didn't run up his record in Road FC, right? You guys know how it goes. Sometimes somebody's got 25 wins and you're like, wow, this guy must be really something special. And he beat the 0-1, the 0-0, the whatever. This guy's actually been fighting some of the better competition in the local area. I think he's been doing a good job with that. So I like the Yusaku side here. It's not run to the bank lock. I think he gets hit cleanly in his fights too. I just think his chin's a little more solid. I think he's a little bit more proven at this weight class. He's done a little bit of work at 85 as well. I just think this is a much more natural fit for somebody of his size and his frame. I think that we might see Henrique go back up to 185 and have a successful career. Just think that, trying to be big, trying to be strong, all that stuff is desirable until, maybe your cardio is compromised, until maybe that chin doesn't hold up the same way at the new weight class that it did at the old weight class. So for me, too many question marks, too many red flags on that side, to back a guy who's 6'5" at welterweight. Narco, what do you think?
Yeah. Honestly, I both guys are young. I mean, let's not make it like one guy has some great veteran advantage, because he's 22 years old. The Japanese guy is only 22. And yeah, Henrique is super young at 20. But Kinoshita, yes, he looks.
I'm guessing 20 as well. He has no listed age on Tapology, so it was 19 in the LFA. I'm just projecting out that he's 20 now.
He's 20.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the one thing is Kinoshita looks violent. He looks strong. His striking in almost every single fight I watch was much better than his opposition's. And then he looked like the bigger guy most of the time in the ring when he's fighting those guys in Japan. But, I mean, to be honest, there is some red flags that I do see. I'll just go, for instance, the last 4 guys that he's fought, right? The last guy he fought was 42 years old. The guy he fought after him was 36. The guy after that, was 36, I believe, as well. And the guy after him was 40. So it feels like they gave him guys that were kind of tail end of their career. They're probably done. Even those guys, their records were not very impressive, right? Outside of the guy that he's, face stomps, who's 19-8 currently. But again, the guy is probably, nearing the end of his career because he's 36 years old. But I do agree with you. He is violent. He does have some nice hands. But I think the problem he's going to have here is huge size advantage when you look at these guys at face-offs. The other thing I realized is, Henrique made the weight pretty easy. Guess who needed the curtain? It was the Japanese man. He needed the curtain to make weight here. So he might have had the tougher weight cut, to be honest. I don't know how it's possible, but Henrique looked to be a little bit less softer in the stomach area. He looked like he tightened it up a little bit. I think he's fought the better level of opposition. I think the last guy Henrique fought is better than anybody this Kinoshita guy has fought, to be honest. And He showed toughness, which I like to see. He stayed in the fight. I think he won that third round after being severely, severely compromised, like you said in the second. He shows good cardio. There's things that I do like from this guy. He's hittable, yes. But I do think here's the reason why I cited him mainly here is because Kinoshita doesn't normally like to grapple. Yes, he does, but I think he's a striker at heart. He likes to strike. He likes to punish you on the feet. He's throwing big bombs on the feet, and that's where it kind of plays into Henrique's hands because he's the longer guy. He's a kickboxer. He's a Muay Thai guy. He wants to, he's going to keep you at range, and he's much smaller than him, Kinoshita is here. So if he's not compromised at 170, and that's an if because I don't know, this guy is huge for 170. If he's not compromised at 170, I got plus 170. It's 175 now. Kind of feel like it has a little bit of value. I honestly can't lay this price with Kinoshita, seeing who he's fought. Like I have a lot of question marks on this guy. He's literally had no resistance in some of his fights. So I need to see some of that before I can back somebody. So I am on the Henrique side, and I have actually the over 2.5 here at plus 185. I think I don't know what it is right now, but it's crushed. It's plus 125. So yeah, I wouldn't play it at plus 125, but yeah, I kind of feel like this fight might go to distance.
My lean was towards the under, so that's interesting, right? I was not super convicted on either side here. I was a little bit more convicted on the Kinoshita side, but the thing that I was thinking about Henrique is like that guy kind of just got a little sloppy trying to finish him. And he definitely punched himself out. I mean, the commentary talked about that too. Like the guy literally was punching and then just all of a sudden stopped. And he lost like the probably last 90 seconds of the second round as well. So he kind of just fell off a virtual cliff. And then in round 3, he was just trying to survive. He thought he won the first 2 rounds. So he tried to get fancy with it, move around the outside. He got caught, got dropped, and had to fight his way back in a little bit. But I felt like, Yusaku, if he has you hurt like that, he's probably going to hit you with something that closes the show. That's the only difference I felt like was just like, the guy didn't seem like the most natural finisher. He had him backed up. He seemed like a guy, they said it on commentary, he'd fought to decision before. And he was probably thinking like, I got this guy hurt. I can finally get a finish. I'm going to go off. And then he did, and he blew it. But I thought he won the first round. So like I was with him, I didn't think that Henrique did anything in round 1. Like, the commentators after the fact were saying, it was like Big Nog on commentary. He's like, I thought he won that round. I was like, by doing what? Like he backed up. I didn't see one land of clean strikes like in the whole first round. So for me, I felt like that just didn't make sense. However, if he's more active, I mean, he's got a huge frame. Like that was the thing that pissed me off about watching him. He's massive. He could touch you from 10 feet away and he's not throwing. He's like waiting for the other guy to go first. But he does have a pretty snappy return with the right hand. That's the other thing. I think that that's where you can kind of catch somebody who's more aggressive coming in on some of those straighter lines at times, like Yusaku will do when he's coming forward. He's confident in his chin. He puts it on the line at times, and that's the one thing where, somebody with just a snappy counter right hand. We mentioned it when we were talking about Ligio, why he's so powerful. He's got long arms. And long-armed punchers hit with weird power. They can just generate leverage in ways that shorter arm guys can't. So shorter arm guys, it's got to be all weight. It's got to be all explosion. And these guys with longer arms, they touch you at the end of that range. They can generate so much movement that it really puts a lot of power behind it. And I think that that's the strength of Henrique. If he's able to keep this fight going, if he's able to bring it a little bit longer, if he's able to make it a dogfight down the stretch, I think that's where, his youthful energy is off the charts. The guy, like you mentioned, 3rd round warrior, that was really impressive. And he was crying after the win, like he earned that victory. So I like to see it. Rumble, young man, rumble. But I think that I think the other guy's just a little cleaner. So I think Yusaku is going to find him here and maybe put him down. But this should be a hell of a fight. I think this is probably the most talented, group from Contender Series. Certainly one of the most talented groups. In terms of overall talent. I think we've seen outliers, right? The Bo Nichols of the world who come in and they're just head and shoulders above even an average Contender Series competitor. But this week, a lot of people that could have some fun fights, make some noise in the lower end of these UFC divisions. So all welcome additions from the winner circles as far as I'm concerned.
By the way, next week, it's just pretty funny. I just saw it today. They put on, I don't know if you know Trey Waters, the wrestler. They put him on the card for next week. It's like he just fought an LFA. So
oh wow, quick turnaround, huh?
Quick turnaround. They want him in the UFC. So
I love it, man. I love it. I'm seeing right now, can't let this one get away from me. My man Mushroom, once again, always reminding us, Dana White Contender Series parlay, please. Narco, do you have one ready, or would you like me to go first, brother?
Go first.
All right. So if I was pressed right now on the money line, let's say we go through Bet365 for posterity's sake, I would take this Kinoshita. I would take Penaz, excuse me. I would take Rebecci. I would take Maria Silva. And, oh, God, have I really gone chalk this week? Oh, God. Oh, no. I need someone. Oh, God. It's going to – oh, my God. I feel terrible. Mushroom, I like the chalk this week, brother. If I had to pick a buster – if I had to pick a buster, it might just be Blake Bilder, man. It might just be Blake Bilder. Switch out Kinoshita for the under 2.5. I'll go Penaz. I'll go Rebecci. And I will go Morgan and Bilder doesn't go the distance. How about that? So we got 2 pieces of violence and 2 money lines for you, Mushroom. That's what I got. Narco, how about you?
All right. We'll give him the over 1.5 on the Penaz and Dumas fight at -160. We will go with the Maria Silva line. I guess you can only get it if you're getting the over 1.5. So it's Maria Silva -270, which is kind of juiced. I do like the Rebecci side at -235. And then we will go with Henrique money line +175.
Bang, bang, bang. He's even got an underdog for you. So there you have it, folks. We've done it. 5 fights, Contender Series, week 6. Should be a very exciting iteration of the show. A lot of violence to ensue if all goes well for me, because I'm looking at some violence. Haven't locked in many bets for this card yet, but I know I'm going to be looking at some unders as they open up a little bit more across the market here. So appreciate all you guys for rocking with us. Still over 100 of you in the chat as we finish out here. So thank you guys all so much for the support. Thank you very much to my man NarcoCop once again for making the time. Another great Dana White Contender Series breakdown. And I think we're probably back on your channel for next week. So Narco, if you could let the people know where they could find you and anything you want to get off your chest.
Great show as usual, Liam. Find me at NarcoCop on Twitter, NarcoCopMMA on YouTube. Lambo Place podcast every Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern. And live spaces every fight card. And we'll have live spaces after having a week off this week for UFC Paris.
I love it. I love it. And my man Narco's been killing it on all these regional shows as well, guys. So if you haven't been getting after it on your regional tape, follow my man Narco. Let him be your guide, and you'll be making money on a bunch of fight cards that you didn't even know existed. So appreciate all you guys for the support. You can find me everywhere at Liam Picks Fights. You can find my article tomorrow morning, Action Network, back again. Week number 6, going to be breaking down the Contender Series for my friends over at the Action Network. So, guys, stay tuned for that. You can find that on my Twitter as well. So, at Liam Picks Fights everywhere. Come back next week. We're having all the same fun again. We're going to have our man Gordo back in the building. So, in his absence, guys, please go follow my man Gordo Gambles and increase your knowledge, because the guy's very smart and he's going to help you win. So, appreciate you guys. Thank you all for the support.